Mortal Shell is an action RPG announced earlier this year that has fans of a certain notoriously difficult game very excited. Right now I'm joined by the fine gentleman from developer Cold Symmetry. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey,
great to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. This game looks awesome. People are really stoked about it. Let's start with the shells from the title. What are these shells?
The shells are the playable characters in the game. Through inhabiting them, you learn more about who they were. You get in touch with their abilities. But first, you must learn their names.
Okay, indeed, yeah. And what you see on the screen is Harris, which is one of the first shells you actually acquire. And yeah, just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and you know,
No, go ahead.
Their abilities, they're really each of their abilities are tied in with their storyline. So you might have someone who was an executioner and someone who was a poisoner, and so you'll get to as you get to know who they were when you unlock their storyline. You see here that we're learning who this shell was, what their name was, and each time you unlock a little bit more about their history, you acquire one of their abilities as well.
So how many shells are there, or do you even know yet? And it sounds like they were going to be providing different types of playstyles.
There are 4 unique mortal shells that you can discover if you can find them.
Indeed, yeah, and indeed they do provide different playstyles. And as a matter of fact, each shell might even kind of feel like a different game depending on if you really fully utilize their combat potential, right? Like one shell, for example, when it comes to dodges and rolls, can only roll a certain way. Another shell can only execute a dodge in a certain way. And as Andrew already mentioned, as you discover the abilities and as you learn more about their past in terms of their lore and history, you will also see how each of those abilities really tied in together and in the one specific theme that one shell represent. And the more you uncover, the more you learn what their strong side really is.
So you mentioned if you can find all these shells, are they sort of doled out throughout the entirety of the game, or is it possible to get all 4 of them near the beginning of the game so you can use them throughout the entire game?
They're hidden throughout the world. It is close to the beginning, so that you can so that you'll be able to kind of choose one which suits your play style the best fairly early on, but you will have to kind of scour that initial area for them.
Gotcha. Now, in the announcement trailer that was released earlier this year, it looks like there was a scene where we saw the player get knocked out of a shell. Is that something that can happen during combat?
Yeah, that's what happens when your HP reaches 0. You get knocked out of your shell. You're put into this more vulnerable state. It can kind of have tactical advantages, but the big disadvantage is that you only have 1 HP when you're in that state. So you have to be super careful. You can get back into the shell a limited number of times, but yeah, you've got to really manage your HP, manage your stamina, and kind of explore all the tactics there.
But if you're really hardcore, you can actually even like play through the game without any shells at all. Like if you really want a challenge, so that's always an option.
Yeah, in fact, there's like a secret spot that we hope one of those more hardcore players who really want the challenge to find, where you like sort of officially within the game's lore, obviously, you renounce the bonding with all the shells. It even changes your skin, and it kind of like, all right, it's on now. You're gonna live in the age, baby.
Well, these types of games definitely have those hardcore players that are looking for a challenge. So that'll really be fun watching people try to do like a no-shell playthrough.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're being upfront that this is a Souls-like game. What made you decide to make this kind of game?
I mean, I guess for us it was never even a question what type of game we want to do, because we all are fans of these games. We enjoy playing them. We love the meaning and the philosophy that they have inside. So we just wanted to do something that we would play ourselves, and hopefully other people will enjoy too.
I mean, the first
Yeah.
time I went over to Vitaly's house, he had this LED screen on his fridge that was, yeah, I'm going there, which was rotating the armor sets, rotating the armor sets from Dark Souls 3, like it was pictures of his pets or his kids or something, you know. And then right after that, we had a 2.5-hour conversation about debating the merits of nihilism.
Oh wow.
Yeah, very, very true. I have to admit, I had a phase like that, and I guess like the first experience of playing a Dark Souls game was really, in a way, like a life changing for me. Not just because like those are fun games, but really the sense of like the overcoming sort of your internal struggle, the journey that you go through, and how sort of like character strengthening those experiences are. So in a way, what really happened for us also as a studio, we really bonded also, and over this shared passion, and we became real life friends as well. And everybody finds something their own on those kind of games, and now it's a genre that is here to stay, and we thought we have something to say in this realm as well. And we really think those kind of genres just more than that, just a game. They're good for you.
So which of the Souls games were the biggest inspiration for you?
I would say it's probably different for each and every of us. Like we have a broad selections of games we like in Souls-like genre, but like for me personally, I really love the really old one called Blade of Darkness. It's maybe like 20 years old even, or even more. But it looks like the game you start with when you first try Souls-like is your favorite normally for people, at least among us. So yeah.
It's like the Souls before Souls, right?
Sure.
Yeah, like before the term was even coined, right? Like the first original Souls-like. And I think for some of us, I think Dmitry, did you set what other games you said like even before the Dark Souls?
Yeah, we were passionate for dark fantasy art style games, different melee combat games like Blades of Darkness for sure, and it was even Golden Axe and Quake 1. It's not a melee combat, but it's still a good, it's a pretty deep mood and a style, so I was really inspired of that games.
Yeah, and
sure
I like I mentioned Quake because like it's clearly not a Souls-like, but some of the ideas in terms of the atmosphere and like the world-building elements, in terms of like the brutal atmosphere, what it brings to, it definitely was an inspiration. Another thing was probably worth mentioning when it kind of going back to sort of why we decided is also that there's some elements in the original Souls-like, like the first Dark Souls and Demon Souls that we really like, that they're kind of like not really being sort of left forgotten today when it comes to like level design and some of the other elements that we thought it'd be really cool to take those ideas and evolve them into something new, something that we were passionate about and felt confident that we can evolve on that formula and bring something new to the table.
So tell us about the world of Mortal Shell. What is this place? What happened here? And what is the player trying to accomplish?
Well, what exactly happened and what the players tried to accomplish, we're gonna try not to spoil things just yet.
Sure.
But generally, we can say that the player's gonna find themselves in this world that was tarnished and by this influence of the so-called, like, well, we call it internally, we're like, in a funny way referring to the juice, is this substance that has almost like magical kind of like abilities that is created and produced within the sacred glands of this godlike creature they revered, the sacred nectar. And this sacred nectar is pretty much the sort of the root of all conflict in the world, is the main currency that the player is going to use to fully develop their combat abilities of their shell. But it's also what other players, other NPCs and enemies also seek in the game.
But in general, like speaking, if we baseline it, in the game, everybody is basically searching for a meaning, and not only you as a player, but also like other NPCs or other like creatures that populate the world. They're all in search for meaning, and some of them find it, some of them don't. But it's all about that, basically.
What can you tell us about this enemy that we're seeing in combat right here?
Well, in general, when it comes to enemies, we try to approach it in a way where every enemy has something about them, something special about them, and one kind of important kind of a pillar design hook idea, right? And also, obviously, has to be integrated in the level within. Like maybe about this particular fella, who's quite mean, and maybe Dmitry can tell us more about this guy.
Oh yeah, it was fun to make a design for this one. We have a few different versions before we hit the style, but the main idea that we had in mind is like we want to create something a wild, crazy beast, something like a huge, hungry bear on steroids. So and
Yeah, because like it's rare when you see a very well balanced combination of both power, like raw power, and fat and speed, and it's hard to get those things right. And like maybe Anton can talk more about the animation side of things and combat there for this guy.
Yeah, because that was like part of the creation of the creatures too. Like we don't have any motion capture animation in game, so everything is keyframed, and we were trying to really focus and put like exaggerations and accents in the right moment to make the combat flow in the right way. And same not only for enemies but for player too. So it fits together by the end like Lego pieces. But like we've been tweaking timings a lot, like frame by frame, to make sure it works.
So how big and how open is this world?
The world is, I mean, taking the studio size, we knew from the start that we have to focus on the quality rather than the quantity. So we can call it a fairly compact experience, but when I say compact, I still mean it's like deep enough to get lost in, and it's interesting enough to get lost in. And we have a lot of storytelling elements and pieces throughout the world, a lot of interesting places to explore where you can find some bits of story that, like, after that you can connect the dot together and figure out what exactly is happening in the area that you're in.
And the entire experience takes around 20 hours. I think that we tried to keep every moment meaningful. Like, we're not going to send you around on quests trying to farm rats, right? Like we want, we don't really even tell you what to do. It's kind of up to you. And there's a lot to explore. Vitaly mentioned the roots of like earlier Souls titles, like Dark Souls 1, where we don't give you fast travel right away, right? So you've definitely got no mini map. So you're having to constantly memorize where you are in the environment, and as a result, you get to know it super well.
That's right.
And like
when it
the
comes
structure.
to, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I just want to say that the structure, like the way we build it, is like we have one big open area, and then the levels that connect to it, and you can choose where to go in any order. It doesn't matter, but we try to make it in a way that it always feels like an adventure, like a journey, where you have to commit before you go somewhere in some new area. It might be tricky for you, like you might find it difficult, so you might want to get back and like rebalance, like maybe choose another shell, pick another weapon, and try with that. But we try to make it look like every time you decide to go somewhere, it's a commitment and it's an adventure and journey that you have to experience yourself.
You're probably going to suffer. You're going to have to have the fortitude to overcome like that lost feeling that you have in the beginning. But I think once you do, you're going to feel really good about not just about the game, but about yourself too. And I think that we all have gone through kind of similar metamorphosis through playing similar titles that we felt like, they were really meaningful to us personally.
Right.
Now, getting back to the announcement trailer from a few weeks ago, did the voiceover guy in the announcement trailer actually say, what is it? Bring the glands back to me? The glands?
Yes.
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 What's that all about?
The sacred glands, Vitaly mentioned them earlier. They're really critical to the plot of Mortal Shell, what you're doing in the world. Where there are forces fighting over these things. I kind of get into spoilers here, so you're going to have to dig in and find out for yourselves.
All right. Who was the woman in the mask?
That's Sester Janessa. She introduces you to the substance tar, the sacred nectar. She offers you the juice to drink, and that juice is what helps you bond with your shell, kind of get to know them better, unlock their abilities. Like I mentioned earlier, all the shell's abilities are tied in with their stories. So I think that's something that we do that's pretty cool.
So what's the current release plan for Mortal Shell? Do you have a release window that you're targeting?
So we've announced Q3. There'll be more info coming on that soon.
Okay.
yeah, we're excited to share that with you when it's time.
Well, you guys, Mortal Shell is looking awesome. I know our audience is super excited for it. Before we go, real quick, I believe you have a special announcement for the fans that you can make.
Yeah, we'll be starting the beta on July 3rd, and you'll be playing the Crypt of Martyrs. Come and join us in the Discord and see what it's all about.
Very cool.
Yep.
What platform will the beta be on?
It'll be on PC.
Excellent. Cool. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
for
us.
having us.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Before we go, let's take one more look at that kick-ass new trailer for Mortal Shell.
I do not deserve absolution, yet still I seek it.
You must find his name.